rich, rich, rich without money? Is that possible? Yes, just wait and see. These are photos that I've taken in the last 30-some years in the small traditional area in the middle of the island of Tanna, which is in the country of Vanuatu in Melanesia in the South Pacific. And what you're going to see tonight is pictures of traditional life, but the subject is not traditional life. The subject is our own lives, reflected in the mirror of how these people live. Almost 40 years ago, I left Panama on this sailboat as captain and later as the owner, and it brought me to places that very few people had ever seen. And what I saw and the things I experienced there changed the way I live and the way I see life. Melanesia is an area to the east of Australia, and it consists of Vanuatu, the Solomon Islands, Papua New Guinea, New Caledonia, and Fiji. I visited all of these countries, but the one that's most important to me is Vanuatu, because it's there on the island of Tanna that I first experienced people really living traditional life. Not only I was surprised to see people still living traditionally, but what surprised me even more was to find out that they're rich, rich without money. How could that be? Well, it's because they already have everything they need in the gardens or in the forests around them. It's an interesting place, and people live a relaxed, rich life full of humanity. And of course there are problems, but they have developed over the years ways of dealing with problems and challenges of all sorts. But it's a wonderful place, and it's the place in the world where I feel most at home. And it's there that I met my friend Bosun. Bosun lives in one of the villages in this traditional area. And it was the Vanuatu Cultural Center that sent me there for the first time to take pictures of the way he lived. And since then, about 30 years now, I go back every year and spend time with him. After a few visits, I began to teach him photography so he could continue our work of documenting traditional life even when I wasn't there. Now, this is a photo that I took of him on my first visit. There's a funny story about this one. Well, you can't see that it's funny when you look at it, and I didn't know it was funny when I took the picture either. But when I came back a year later, I found out that this was not his wife. It was his sister, because his wife was so upset to see a white man at their house that she ran away and hid for the whole time I was there. Well, now we're friends and it's okay. On the left, you see Chief Kauia. After a number of years visiting, he gave me this stone axe head that had been in his family for 9 generations. It was a way of telling me that now I too belong to his family. The stone axe head is in the Vanuatu Cultural Center along with its genealogy. And on the right, you see a picture of me planting my own kava in one of the village's gardens that I share. In the year 2001, I did an exhibition of my Vanuatu photographs at the major American museum, the Academy of Sciences in San Francisco. They invited Bosun to come and to give the opening speech, and I translated it into English. Well, here's how we took his passport photo. His chief had heard about the outside world from missionaries and other people that came through, but he didn't really trust what he'd been told. So when he found out that Bosun was going to San Francisco, he asked him to study how white men really lived and report back to him. Bosun took hundreds of photographs, did 5 hours of sound recording, and when he came back to Tanna, not only did he tell the chief all the things that he's seen, but he did a series of small exhibitions around the island. It was maybe what we could call reverse anthropology. This is the case in which an indigenous man living a traditional life went to America to study how white people really lived. This is one of the villages near where Bosun lives. As you can see, it's a wonderful natural environment. And of course, people who live here in this village understand that they're part of nature, and that's part of the way they live. Of course, most of us don't have the means to live in such a beautiful place, but is there a way in which we could bring a little bit more nature back into our own lives? Now, I call this photo First Contact. Bosun took this picture on our approach to the Los Angeles airport. He had never been out of Vanuatu, and his first view of America was a shock. He said, are those houses? I said, yeah. He said, are there people living there? Yeah. But how can they live, so many people in one village? And where are their gardens? I couldn't answer those questions. And when we got out of the airplane, he had another first experience, air pollution. Now here, there's no air pollution. This is Inolol, a village not far from where Bosun lives. In traditional Vanuatu, peace and respect are the major values, and everything is organized around these. No one goes hungry. There are no poor people. Everybody has a house and a family, and there are no rich people either because of the sharing that's done there. Well, it's quite different than the way we live in a different situation, and sometimes when I go to Vanuatu, I wonder, is there any way that we can bring a little bit more humanity into our own lives? And we're so busy chasing after money and amassing personal possessions. What if that wasn't so important to us? On the left here is a photo that Bosun took in San Francisco of a couple of very tall buildings. He said, boy, those are so high, my eyes are too short to see the top. That's an example of our technology, our very rapidly evolving technology. On the right is another equally impressive technology, but one that's invisible to us. This men's house in Bosun's village was actually grown to that shape. It wasn't built out of metal or steel. It wasn't cut into the tree. His ancestors actually grew it in the shape that they wanted. Now that's technology. Well, here's the two different kinds of approaches to technology. On the island of Tanna, there aren't very many cars. So Bosun was very impressed in San Francisco to see all those cars. And when I explained to him that this tank truck brought fuel for the cars, he took this picture and he said, it's like their mother. It feeds the cars. Now, on top, we see a very different approach to the idea of transportation. Bosun's horse leaves only biodegradable residue and doesn't contribute to global warming. Now, it's true that most of us can't use a horse for transportation, but are there ways that collectively and individually we might reduce the ecological footprint of our transportation? Well, everybody knows today telephones and tablets are everywhere. They're even starting to arrive on Tanna. It's a great technology. It enables us to contact people who are far away. But is it true that sometimes, even when we are together, it keeps us apart? On Tanna, parents and their children are very close. They spend most of their day together. And it means that children are a part of the family and a part of the community from a very early age. In our world, it's hard to spend a lot of time with our children because we go to work, they go to school, and when we come back from work, we're tired and we have to go to bed. But are there ways that we might be able to spend more time with our own children? On Tanna, children are everything. Children on Tanna contribute to the family every day in every way. When they're very, very small, they go to the garden and they help digging the garden and planting. They go with the mother and help cooking. They participate in everything we do. They contribute. But in our world, it's difficult because it's expensive to raise a family with food, clothing, the latest mode, everything all together, and then education. And of course, when they grow up, they generally leave the family without contributing very much. Is there anything we could do to modify this situation just a little bit? Also, on Tanna, when people get old, they stay in the family, and the family takes care of them. There's no social security, but this is a much better situation because they're at home with their family, loved, and participate in the activities of the family. Now, here, this little boy, Kote, is dancing in front of his grandfather. You can tell he's having a great time. Well, not only is he having a great time, but he's learning. He's learning what he needs to know to someday take his grandfather's place. What about us? How do we guarantee that we can take our place in the world later? This is Nosoyo's classroom. You think I changed the wrong slide. No, this is his classroom. It's also his garden. Because on Tanna, we learn by doing. And since he was a very little boy, he's been going with his family to the garden and helping. Now, his garden supplies a good percentage of the food, the yams, the taro, and other things that his family needs. How can we contribute to our family? Now, this is a different kind of school. Ring, ring, ring. We got to hurry up. We got to be on time. Well, we have to be on time because we're learning to be on time later to our work. If we're late, we're in big trouble. Also, our school is structured, rather impersonal, and it's preparing us for our work in the future too, which will probably be structured, impersonal, and rather intellectual. But can we add a little bit more humanness? And what about things like family values and the way we look at the world? Does this teach that too? Now, food. When my son Romain goes to the garden, there he is in his garden, choosing a can of food. But he can't really tell what's in the can. On the other hand, Noasoyo knows exactly what he's eating. Why? Because he grew it. In our world, what about our food? Is it simply made to be easy to produce, to be easy to transport, to be easy to sell? Or is it really designed to be nourishing to the body and the soul? Now, here we're finishing the women's weaving house. This is a community project. All the material was prepared in advance. And in one single day, the roof was finished and thatched. And of course, no money was used for that. In our world, almost everything we do, we're paid for. And we think that we're doing it because we're earning money for ourselves and we put it in our pocket. But when you really think about it, in addition to earning money for ourselves, we're actually contributing to the good functioning of our society. if we realize that, maybe when we go to work, we can put a little bit more heart and soul into what we do. And if we do that, maybe we'll be happier in our lives and maybe help the society be happier too. Now, we've gone full circle here. This is a picture of me in Alaska by my airplane before I came to Melanesia. Well, as you can see, Melanesia has very much changed me and the way I look at the world. And tonight, I've shared with you some images and some ideas I've gotten from that time. This is not a scientific expose, and I'm not an anthropologist, but I hope that looking a little bit about how people lived on Tanna might help us all think a little bit more about our own lives. Thank you very much. Wait, I want to remind you again that this presentation tonight was not about Tanna. It was not about traditional life. It was about our own lives. And can we change the way we live a little bit to make our lives richer? Yes, we can.